Hey everybody, welcome back to Starting Over.
I'm Camille.
And I'm Gretchen. We're so happy that y'all are here. We've been
Well,
not vacationing, but we've been doing stuff.
we've been busy,
Been
so we're
busy.
a couple weeks out. So we're happy
Yeah.
to be back.
So good to be back. Your skin looks amazing. We'll
Oh,
talk about
thank
that
you.
on Back Home
Thank you.
Beauties. So Starting Over is a chance where you get to learn from us basically ideas that will help you at any part of your day, not just your life,
right.
how to change your mind so you can start over.
Change your mood set. Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
You got a mindset. You got a mood set too,
That's
and I think that's just as important as a mindset.
I think they all go together. So when you're in a mood because your mind is set on something,
Yes,
right?
that's right.
So instead of just wanting to stay in a crappy mood or
Yeah.
stay in a pissed off mood,
Yeah.
there's some tools that we want to share with you to help you know how to get out of that feeling.
Yes.
It's not that you're doing it for somebody else. You're doing it because you want to feel good. And when
right.
you're high strung or when you're anxious or when you're depressed, that doesn't feel good. So we want to talk about how to feel good. Camille and I were talking about, I know all of y'all have heard this before, where people say that's just how I am.
Yeah.
I was born this way.
Always been this way.
Always been this way. That's just how it is. I wish I could change, but that's just how it is.
Yep. Can't.
Lay it on them, Camille.
Well, that's a pretty self-limiting belief, and it's a belief. Okay, so if you believe that, then it's true. I think we do manifest whatever we believe in, right?
Yeah.
So if you're living your life that you can't do something or you're never going to be that, look, you got that from somewhere in your past, and if you're living that is true to this day, that it really doesn't mean it's true. I mean, I was talking to her earlier about addicts, and if you've got to quit drinking, people say I can't quit drinking, I need alcohol or I need drugs. I'll tell you what works is, I think AA works, and I'll tell you why. Because there's a denial that must be interrupted. And it's a belief. You believe that you need it, or you can't live without it, or you're in pain, or something. You're not worth anything, so who cares? I don't matter anyway. A lot of addicts have these beliefs, and so they find themselves at the bottom of a bottle, But what AA tends to do is it stops and interrupts your thought, your thinking, and it says, look, you're powerless to this. You've got to surrender some sort of idea, and so you don't have all the answers when that happens. So if you think and again, I can't counsel someone, I can't coach someone if they're not coachable. So if I say, well, no, I think you could have money, I think you could have a better job, you could have a happier relationship. No, I can't. But if you can't, then I guess you can't. They're not coachable.
Right. And I do think too, some of the narrative that we buy into is something that's happened in our past that we tend to put a blame on it, whatever that subject may be. I am this way because of this trauma. I am this way because this happened to me. And while we are certainly not saying that it isn't a valid reason to feel, it is not a valid reason to stay in it.
No.
One of the things that you're so good about, Camille, is you want people to own their feelings.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But then when you process means you kind of dissect, you clean it up, and then you move forward.
Yeah.
Starting over is all about finding a new way, because if things are going great and you feel good and everything's happy, you don't need to start over. You just need to start over doing the same thing. But if things are not going well and you don't feel good and you can't find a way to get out of it, it has to start with what you think, what you believe, and what's the narrative? What's the story you're telling?
Yeah. Well, and if there is a story and this is just me, well, look, you can learn a lot of new ways to be different. There's no end to you. There's tons of potential. There's endless futures. It's just how creative are you? And that's someone, again, who's kind of already settled into, that's just how it is, I can't change, or they can't change. I mean, haven't you heard people say, well, he's that old, he's not going to ever be any different,
Right. It's just how he is. He's always been this way, or she's always been this way.
They're too old to change now, that's not going to change. And maybe true, but that doesn't mean you have to allow or continue to be who you are with that person. You can speak your truth. You can...
And I know that I've read plenty, and you have too, plenty of articles where people, all of a sudden they're in their 80s and they learn to play the piano.
Oh, yeah.
Or, they're doing things that traditionally they have not done before. And that's the same with feelings. And so if we get stuck into the mindset, this is just how it is, this is how we are, and you're unhappy, that's not natural. That's not how we are. We are not made to be unhappy.
Yeah.
Now, what has to happen, this is where Camille is the expert in this, what has to happen is you have to take a recognition of, why do you feel that way? What has caused those beliefs?
Yeah.
If you find the cause, then you can let it go and you can find a new way of looking at things.
Yeah. And you kind of look at, like, I don't think anybody's born believing self-limiting things about themselves.
True.
So this is an event or another person's opinion, if you've, and it's something you've been suppressed by, you've been altered by. And that's life. Life alters us. Life happens to everybody. But you decide how you're going to handle it. You decide what you're going to believe about that. You summarize, the event is this and it means that. I had a client today, actually, and her dad was deported when she was 7 years old. And she barely ever saw him again. So she blamed herself for that. Something's wrong with me. And she's got relationship trouble to this day. She gets unavailable man. Like, her cycle is what it is because she's reenacting and reliving that drama with her dad,
Right.
So when I pointed that out to her, she's like, oh my gosh. And they're long distance and they don't call her. And, back then he couldn't call. He had no money. He was deported. So he was barely surviving. So, and he loved her. He loved her. She loved
Right.
him. But then just have that person gone from your life
Right.
that fast.
Right.
And then the grandparents were glad he's gone and they didn't like him. And so whenever she'd bring him up and cry, she was shut down. So she doesn't ever share her feelings. I mean, she's living with men like she lived with her dad. So you can see this. And so as you draw those parallels, well, how is this similar? How is it different? And she's starting to kind of break up that little frozen part of herself and unthawing,
Yeah. And I think, too, sometimes it's really easy to settle in on a feeling
Yeah.
because it's familiar. Even we know of people that are in abusive situations, and sometimes they go into another abusive situation because it's familiar.
Yes.
Doesn't mean they like it, but
They don't know any different and it feels normal.
it feels normal, and your body will react to what it feels is normal until your mind can come in and reprogram, rechange your thoughts. Your body is going to follow suit.
Yeah.
So just like what you were saying with AA or any kind of addiction, whatever that might be, if our body becomes so used to the power of the thought,
Yeah.
it's not going to change on its own.
No.
The brain, the thought, is where everything holds. It
where we
holds
alter.
everything, right? Whether it's a change or not. So I know you hear from Camille and I. We say all the time, like, change your thoughts, change your life. It's so true, because if you're not liking a certain category, you don't like how it is turning out, you don't like the reality of your life, you don't like the reality of relationships or your job or whatever it might be, what's the narrative you're talking about?
Yeah.
What are you saying? I hate this job. I hate this person.
Yeah.
Are you constantly in a talk that's negative? If that's the case, you're just adding more of that to the fire.
Yeah.
So that's what your body knows. Your body knows, okay, this is what I should expect because this is what is talked about. But until you can actually get to the part where you want to know, why do I feel this way?
Yeah.
What is it
Yeah.
that makes me feel this way? And I don't want to feel this way anymore. So what's the change?
Yeah.
What do I need to do?
Well, and I think that the critical thing that you're just talking about is, as long as you're blaming something exterior than you, that something's made you do this or someone's making you feel this way, as long as you're assigning power outside of yourself, you will not be able to change. You have to literally look at, I have these results in my life because I chose what I chose and got what I got. And until you can be responsible 100% for your own, for the change, you had help getting here. I'm not saying you were alone in everything, but you have to be responsible for making the change in yourself. So that's where the effort comes in. That's where the discipline comes in. But you really can make changes happen. People have done it. What causes change? What motivates change? Pain. Like when people have had enough, they've had a gutful, they're ready to change. Also, when they get inspired, if they really feel inspired by someone else and they see magic happening over there, they want to be like that person. So they believe themselves into it. Also, necessity, mother of invention is necessity.
Yeah.
So it's for other people sometimes. But also what motivates you to change is getting educated enough and realizing that you can. I mean, when you realize, oh my gosh, what if I could really alter my future? What if I can, my habits today and this tomorrow and this week are going to cause a future anyway. That's what causes futures. And it's those small, safe little things we change that cause a big difference down the road.
Yeah.
So what can you add into your daily life to alter your belief system to make a change? You do this all the time. You're so good at this. It's like you want to manifest whatever. How do you do that, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, you have to decide, what do you want, right? And let's say I'm just making this up. Let's say you're in a relationship and you're not happy with how the relationship is.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on trying to change that person, how do I want to feel? Okay, so maybe the answer is I want to feel safe. All right, so leave that person out of it, but find other things in your life that make you feel safe. I feel safe in my car. My car is very reliable. It's dependable. I feel safe with this friendship. I feel safe in my house. I feel like I'm protected. I feel safe with my religion. Whatever it is, find other areas that build that up, right? Because if you're counting on somebody else to make the change in order for you to feel better, that's going to backfire because we don't have that control over somebody. And it may not be important to them, right? And so if you want somebody to change for you, it's not going to last because that's not how we are. Camille and I talk about this, where if you have a jug of water and half of it is full and you're expecting that person to fill up the other half, you may be sitting there on half empty for a long time, right?
That's right.
But if you learn how to fill up your own cup, whatever is running over, that's what you give to somebody else because you've already taken care of your necessities and your needs. So, whatever you want to change, and maybe it's a tweak, maybe it's not a huge ordeal, it doesn't matter. But every day when you set your intentions for the day, how do I want to feel? Not to what do I want to accomplish? How many emails do I want to answer? How many to-dos do I want to do? How do I want to feel? How do I want to feel, and what can I do to feel that way? One of the things I asked for this morning is I'm like, show me lots and lots and lots of butterflies. Because that brings a feeling of calm. It brings a feeling of joy. It just brings a lot of good feelings to me. And I'm sitting in the house and I'm working and I see this shadow, how butterflies are, they're just, and I look out there and it is this ginormous yellow monarch.
Wow.
Not just a butterfly, but this huge, beautiful thing. That thing stayed around for about 20 minutes.
Wow.
Just in and out, right where I could see it, and I thought that was my intention.
Yes.
That's what I wanted. And the feeling that I got from that was, it didn't have anything to do with money in my bank, a job that was offered. It didn't have anything to do with that. It had everything to do with how I want to feel.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, and I think, when you set an intention, you actually alter the future when you see the future sitting in the moment. Like, how do you predict the future? You go to the future, you decide how it's going to go by setting an intention, and then come back to the present, and that will fulfill. I know that sounds interesting, but, think about, like when you said, I want to see butterfly. On some level, you projected yourself to seeing a butterfly.
Oh, yeah.
You believed that.
Yeah.
And then you got back to the moment. But that's really how you can set an intention for anything. So, do you want to win the lottery? It's like I'm going to walk in, buy lotto tickets, and I'm going to have an experience. I'm going to win that lottery. I'm going to have a feeling of exhilaration. I'm going to feel a wow moment when you win that lottery. So you project something into the future, and then you kind of go to the future and live it, and then come back.
And that's really what a manifestation is.
Yes.
I mean, a manifestation, before it actually comes to your present life, is you feel it first and then you see it. So when in your mind you are projecting a thought, a feeling, a visual, what does it taste? Maybe it's your dream house. Okay, well, tell yourself, okay, well, what do the floors look like? How many windows are in it? What's my view? And where's the sun setting? And all this stuff. You get very descriptive. Your brain
it will start going to work.
Yeah, so your brain starts to go to work. Your body doesn't know if it's present, past, or future.
Right.
So you want to talk about it right now. You don't want to say someday. Someday I hope I'm going to get this, because your brain's going to keep giving you someday, right?
That's right.
So when you're changing how you want to feel about things, you want to focus on the now, even if it hasn't happened. You tell yourself, it's like I listened to, this tape is like 11 hours, but it's I am affirmations about all kinds of subjects, because even when you're asleep, subliminally, your brain is still taking all of that messages in, right? Yep. And so I want my brain to be reprogrammed to the things that I want. If you go to bed and you've just had a fight with your person, and you're all worried and stressed about something in the day, you're marinating on that all night long. You have to learn how to kind of manipulate your thoughts change your thoughts to what you want. Nobody is making you feel bad. Nobody's making you feel insecure. There could be circumstances that have happened, but in the long run, you get to decide, how do I want to continue to feel?
Yeah. Well, and I think, when we personalize things, we make it about us, right? Oh, this happened, that happened. We personalize it. So when Dad left, my dad was, taken away. So is something wrong with me? We get rejected, we personalize it, and then we either judge it or we feel bad about ourselves. We take it on like it's something about us.
Yeah.
When maybe we live an impersonal life, maybe it's not about us. We don't take it personal. And people are, assholes before you. They're going to be that way after you. And so that person is just dealing with it or whatever they're dealing with. But it's not at you.
Right.
So, and when you can when you quit personalizing everything, you can experience life not at being defensive all the time. You just see that's just how life is.
That's such a really good thing to say, Camille, because I think so many times we do that. If, like, even with our kids, what if our kids make a choice and they do something, we all of a sudden internalize that, like we have done something wrong, or we have caused them to make a choice, when really it has nothing to do with any of that.
No.
Even spending time with people that are older, sometimes in their minds they think, you're disrespectful if you don't believe how I believe.
Yes. If you don't do what I'm telling you to do,
you don't
you're
do what
disrespecting me.
You're disrespecting me, when really it's just a different way of thinking.
Yeah.
Right? And it maybe has zero intent to hurt that person. But, kind of, you always say, how is it landing on you?
Yeah.
How is this landing on you? How is this subject, or how is this thought or this feeling landing on you?
How does it occur for you? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if it really isn't about you, you have to let it go.
Yeah.
Because all you're going to do is stew on
Yep.
something that you don't have control over, that how they're feeling. You just have control over how you want to process it.
That's right. That's right. I'll tell you, one of the most profound moments in my personal life was when I was talking to one of a guy that was helping me clear, and I was kidnapped at 5, right? And I personalized that. Yes, I did. How are you gonna?
Sure,
So
why not?
I'm 5, and I was traumatized by it. I had a lot of trauma with that. And I had a lot of beliefs. I mean, what is sex? What is, men are crazy, big men, whatever. I had a lot of trauma. But he said to me, Camille, you're taking that personal. I'm like,
Well, yeah.
of course I'm personalizing that. Are you kidding me? And he said, you need to get into his mind and see why it was a good idea for him to do what he did to you, and what was going on for him. Wow. Are you kidding me? Like, you want me to get into his brain and kind of go, well, why?
Because you're thinking he was wrong. He took me.
Yeah. I was scared. I was horrified.
Right.
And he said, no, I mean it. And that was literally, it took me some time.
Sure.
Because I was in my 20s. And I had gone through, and we didn't do therapy. I was a farm girl. Like, we must be messed up. You need therapy, Anyway, so I finally was in my 20s, and I had talked to this guy, and he said, no, I really want you to make it right. You need to see why this was a good idea. And what was he thinking? And I realized this guy was in pain. I could go there. This guy was in pain. I was somehow helping his pain. I was pain relief for the day. I had to seriously see what he was getting out of what happened. And I really feel like I was some sort of escape for him. I was used. I was pain relief. I was,
Right.
and he says, what did you get out of it besides the trauma? But what did you learn? What did you get? And I had this epiphany. Oh my gosh, this is like maybe somebody who saw my skill set, my abilities before I did, which I could make him, quote, feel better. Like, I was in a way counseling him. He was erratic, sporadic, going through some sort of weird mental trauma. The guy had PTSD. I can see that now.
Right.
But
right.
I would consider this guy in a way like my first client. I know that sounds crazy, but I was used by him to make himself feel better. Right. And what do I do for a living? My mission in when I first started out as a counselor, I just want to make people feel better. Like, literally, that was my mission. Now it's changed a little bit, but I just want to help people feel better. And so I started to be able to break up that trauma and not personalize it so much.
Right.
After I realized that this guy was going through with something. Now, do I respect him? No. I don't condone that for anybody. I wouldn't want to do that to anybody.
No.
But it really was something I had to depersonalize.
Well, think about this whole topic that Camille's talking about, y'all. If she had carried that narrative with her entire adult life, because she's now 29 and that,
Right.
But if she would have carried that with her entire life, I am this way because I was kidnapped when I was a child, and this man did this to me. Yeah. Think of all of the unhappiness and all of the rejection of
yeah.
joy that you would have been through if you had not taken the time to say, I got to
Yeah.
get through this.
That's right.
Right? And so as you go about your day, ask yourself, do I want to feel the way I've always been feeling about this subject?
Yeah.
If I don't want to feel that way anymore, then what do I need to do? We always are a big proponent, write out your feelings. Maybe if somebody wronged you, write it out.
Yeah.
Write it out. Tell them your feelings. Tell them,
Yeah.
not him. Tell them your feelings, whoever it is.
Yeah.
Write it out. Get it all out, and maybe burn it and consider it to be let go. Go see somebody like Camille. Whatever it takes, but make a decision. You don't want to feel this way anymore.
Yeah.
You don't want to feel this way anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I do think when you depersonalize things, and even, trauma is huge. You've got to quit taking it personal. When you can do that you take your power back.
Yeah.
You get to choose how you're going to live, and it's not going to impact your daily life. I mean, it did affect me and men. It did affect me and sex. It did affect how I looked at people. Authority figures. He was wearing army things. I didn't respect authority. I was afraid of authority.
Right.
So I can look at there was definitely an impact. And now it's like, well, no wonder, of course. But if you can stop and say, why am I the way I am with this subject? Look, trust me, it's a parallel from something in your past. It's similar to, it reminds you of, and you're reliving the same thing over and over until you decide you're going to take your power back from it.
Right. We appreciate y'all watching Starting Over. We hope that you will like, share, and subscribe because we are
We're
on
growing.
Here.
We want to
We're
grow.
on here once a week, y'all, if not more. So we appreciate you being here. We'll see you next time.
Bye now.